Hi, my name is Mike Gausling. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've been doing entrepreneurial activities for the last 40 years. I enjoy startup companies, investing in big ideas, and Christ is the most important thing in my life.
Welcome to the Redirect Podcast, where we explore what comes after career. Real conversations about transitioning from the 9-to-5 grind to your next great adventure. Whether you're heading into retirement or simply redefining what purpose means, we're here to inspire, inform, and help you reimagine what's next. This isn't the end of the road. It's the start of something new.
Adam and Dale, hello to you guys, and welcome to another Redirect Podcast recording session. We're going to have a conversation with a gentleman that's going to talk about a variety of things in his life through his entrepreneurial background. Before we introduce our guest today, I have a quick question for you. What would be some gifts or talents that you're using currently where you are in life?
When I think back on what made me successful in the previous direction, was relationships, being approachable, being vulnerable, but developing relationships with people, and doing it in a very sincere way. And I've heard that kind of over and over again, that developing relationships and meaningful relationships is a strength that was successful in the past and something that I continue to use.
I would say I am somewhat naturally curious. I like unpacking, disassembling, deconstructing something to figure out how it works. The idea of doing that with people is thrilling to me, and I think that's where one of the reasons I really enjoy working on the podcast is, we get into a guest like we're going to have with Mike today. I like to dig in. How did you get there? What made you do that? How did that perspective come to be in your life? Those kinds of things as it relates to doing it in my career still, I think that curiosity really serves me well. Like what's the best way to do this? Why does it have to be this way? So I think there's a curiosity that I think has a lot of value in relationships, my career, this endeavor. So I think I'm pretty decent at that, and it seems to yield a lot of enjoyment for me, at least. Yeah. How about you, Curt?
I too, like Dale, I'm being in sales as I had for so many years as well. Prior to that, doing some teaching. I love the opportunity to get to know people, to present relationships, developing those. I really love getting in front of people and just talking. That's what really drives a lot of things that I do. And I think I have the ability to engage people, and that's pivotal. Another thing that I'm bringing forward is the organizational aspects that I bring to the table in being somewhat methodical, analytical, lining things up, having proper sequence and flow and process. I take ownership to that. But those are the two for myself, relationship and organization. So why don't we jump into our guest today, and we can ask Mike that same question too, and what he brings, and maybe we can go someplace with that.
Today's friend of the Redirect Podcast is Mike Gausling, who currently resides in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and Asheville, North Carolina. Mike and I have been hanging out together for about 40 years. He is a serial entrepreneur, a venture capital investor, and man of God who has strong financial, deal-making, and operational background. Mike enjoys investing his time and energies with early-stage technology entrepreneurs, helping them navigate the path from startup to substantial exits. Everything from funding, managing rapid growth, to finding creative ways to maximize shareholder value is what Mike brings to the party. As a social entrepreneur, Mike leverages his skills as a financially oriented entrepreneur in game-changing projects that have driven value with job creation, economic well-being, sheltering, and food access in the local community. The most visible projects include his current role as chairman of Lehigh Valley Industrial Park, treasurer of the Valley Youth House, and treasurer of Northampton Community College Foundation Board. In his spare time, Mike, and I know this, really loves playing golf, biking, hiking, and other outdoor adventure trips with Diane and his friends. So, Mike, wow, what a mouthful, but they are all you. Welcome to the Redirect Podcast.
Great to be here. Thank you.
So, Mike, to kick off, an entrepreneur, I know that they offer that in college now that you have entrepreneur courses, but do you just jump right into being an entrepreneur, or where did you get your start? How did you evolve yourself, and what were some of the redirections that you experienced over your life?
I think for myself, looking, back over history, I was just a naturally born entrepreneur, even before the word was in the Webster Dictionary. It just was naturally just hustled from very early stage, from that first job, delivering newspapers so that I could buy my first pair of red high top Converse tennis shoes, to just never letting money or opportunities get in the way. So I think that entrepreneurial spirit's always been there in one way or another. Redirection, which I think that what you guys are doing is terrific. In the most classic sense of the word, I have had 5 distinct careers. I grew up in Middletown, Ohio. My dad was a steel worker. I went very far away to college, got an engineering degree from Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, went on offshore oil drilling rigs because I wanted to see the world. I was a lousy engineer, so I went back, got an MBA from Miami of Ohio, got a call from Procter & Gamble for finance. P&G was one of the most amazing experiences. Got to meet Dale and other dear friends that I've had for life. But what I found at Procter & Gamble was some of the brightest, most highly motivated, gifted people that could get excited about orange juice. It just was unbelievable how the focus could be on a particular product. Um, and that was the first experience I had where all of a sudden that everyone around me was as motivated, a lot brighter, and all had big aspirations for both business and family in their lives. I had an entrepreneurial opportunity to leave to start a business, and I did after 4 years at Procter and Gamble. Radical change. Didn't pay ourselves for 2 years. Fast forward, we ended up building the first rapid oral fluid HIV test in the United States, and we built a company from scratch to a Russell 2000 company. After that, took 2 years off, started a small venture capital fund, invested in 17 startup companies over the course of 9 years. And then in this last phase, I have a small family office where I invest my time and resources in early stage ventures and philanthropic activities. And so they're very distinct. I can put the dots together. But last night when I was trying to thoughtfully think through, each of those redirections, some of them were survival. Some of them were opportunities, but all of them, when I look back, they were all God inspired.
That entrepreneurial spirit, is it something that you just see so much more potential that you have to you have to go out there and go get it?
I'm the chairman of the board of Orasure when I was the public company CEO, and they wanted change. And I was the largest individual shareholder at that time, and we were doing great. They wanted to bring in a seasoned veteran that liked to sit in meetings. I never liked to sit in meetings. And one of the things he said to me when he looked outside the building is he looked over at a blank piece of ground, abandoned Bethlehem Steel piece of property, and said, Mike, you like buying a piece of ground and putting up a building and creating a vision from scratch. You need to be freed up to do that. That's what you love to do, and that's what you're gifted at. And he was absolutely right. I need a blank piece of paper with dreamers that have a big idea, and I go finance it. That's really my sweet spot.
And there have been so many companies because you did a lot of work with, I think early on, Ben Franklin over at Lehigh. And so you were in that sweet spot, right? Really kind of from the get-go.
Well, even when I left Procter and Gamble, one of my partners, we had a sunscreen product on a towelette delivery system. Single application, cover your face, neck, arms, and legs, throw it away. And we had really good market research results. And the data said that this was a compelling idea that consumers would want this product.
Mm-hmm.
But you had to execute. You had to go from idea to marketplace. With partners, I never did anything alone. I have always been part of a team with a special set of skill sets, but part of a much bigger team. I've never been able to do anything alone. We took it from concept to reality to marketplace to 15,000 retail outlets in 9 months.
That's crazy. So when you left P&G, you had this idea to venture out, pun intended. You had this idea to leave P&G. What was your process in that? How did you go about coming to the idea, I need to bolt, and what systems, logic, decision plan did you put in place to make that a reality?
Well, his name is John Schaefer, and John Schaefer is 100% responsible for this one. As I jokingly say, I was approached by someone at Procter and Gamble. Two guys had come up with the idea of a sunscreen product as a project at college at Carnegie Mellon graduate school project, and they were the ones obsessed with the idea. I sat down with them over pizza and beer one evening at Procter and Gamble. They came back to me a couple weeks later and said, "Hey, would you ever consider joining us?" And I had no intention of leaving. And I go to my mentor who had promoted me several times. And I said to John, I've got this opportunity. I'm not looking at it very seriously. They got good market research results. And he goes, Mike, you're 29 and single. This seems like a great idea. Before you get golden handcuffs, you're crazy if you don't go for it. And if it doesn't work out, I'll hire you back. I quit the next day. So I'd like to tell you I got the best made plan, but God intervened. A mentor I trusted suggested I do it, and I went for it.
So you had a bit of a push.
Everywhere along, it's been more than a nudge.
Interesting. Do you feel like in that situation, it's someone that like believed in you and it was something you were already thinking, or did something come along that it just blindsided you? Like, hey, I wasn't even thinking about this, but if this guy thinks it, I should consider it.
Well, at the time, we had underwritten a real estate developer to build a house. So we were sort of a funding source. So we were kind of being entrepreneurial to watch this guy build a house. And we were funding it. And at that time, Dale and I were having these conversations about starting a business. And there was this new franchise, show my age right now. And I was going to be the first one willing to quit to run the first couple of stores. And they had some regions open, and it was the Dayton region for Subway franchises. Subway didn't exist yet. So Dale and I were having conversations about us going and doing something on the side, thinking that I'd fund it all by keeping working at Procter and Gamble. But the conversations were live. It was real TV at that time.
And we just wanted to wear golf shirts to work. But it is a process of you're starting to think about redirection in your current role and already tapping into that kind of serial entrepreneur part that you have. And that was 50 years ago almost.
Yeah.
And given we were that far, because we were also looking at trying to open up a car wash on the corner on the corner of Madison and Edwards.
We had a vision.
But all of it, we continued to think that this is what we really want to do next. And it's like stuff happens that gets you there. One of the things I loved about it was I was going to hopefully go into business with the guy that wears, high top red Converse, which are shoes that I loved when I was a kid. What was the story behind that? Why don't you share that with the audience?
I was in fourth grade, and our high school basketball team had red high top Converse at the time. I asked my dad, I was the oldest of 5 kids, and my dad was a steel worker at Armco Steel. And I asked him for a pair of red high top Converse, and he said, if you want a pair of those expensive sneakers, go get a job. So I got my first job.
Wow.
So theoretically, right there, it kind of started right there, and you
Yeah.
continue to wear those things at every major speech you give. You're in high top Converse.
I don't give any speeches anymore because I'm a museum piece. But yeah, I used to wear them all the time as sort of, kind of to get them back out. But I still own the name Blue Star Partners. It's one of the LLCs I have. I get a K1 from it every year. So
Do you have in your closet or wherever you keep your shoes a pair of red high top Converse today?
absolutely.
That's awesome.
So, Mike, you went on when you started like you said, a Russell 2000 company, and phenomenally successful, and then took a couple of years off after that venture, and all the while, and I can speak personally, we always talked about men's groups, and you certainly still have a men's group. With all of the redirections that you had kind of gone through, what was the role of that group that you were in?
There was a couple guys that all of us mid 40s probably at the time, buried in our businesses, buried with our family, probably believed in Christ, but not any focal point in our lives. Just really busy with life. And there was a program that a couple guys got started called Top Gun. It was out of Chicago, a ministry group, very organized program, 42 weeks, Friday morning at 6 a.m. So here's some really busy people. Got 12 guys for a beta site, 6 and 6. And we did this 42-week program that had very organized on family and Bible and business and all these topics. And you come to find out that we all had all the same issues going on. We weren't islands of ourselves with problems. They were common. And now in the confidentiality with other men, you were growing and sharing in a new personal relationship with Jesus Christ. And it was a game changer for me in my 40s. So what I took for granted and I didn't lean on God, all of a sudden became sort of the center of everything I did. And that was awesome.
And it remains today.
Absolutely. There's bumps along the road. I had to get out of the group for a while just because of busyness and other things in life, but I'm back in a group now for another 5 years. And over the last 20 years, all but probably 3 years, I've been in a Friday morning group. And Dale, when you and I met, you were in men's groups. I mean, you were always, and it invited me to it, and I always resisted because I just didn't. What is that about a men's group sharing? I don't know about sharing. Come on.
Well, we didn't have Zoom back in the 80s
No,
and
we
90s
didn't.
either. So
No, we didn't. So no, that was an absolute game changer for me in terms of bringing Christ into all my decision making.
It's the ultimate redirection, right?
It is. It is. We talk about redirections, and Red High Top Converse was one. And last night I'm saying to myself, what were really the things that were inflection points in my life that were game changers that I didn't know what they were? And these are in no particular order, but it was just stream of consciousness last night. Red High Top Converse, team member on 3 state championship teams, and 1.8 GPA in my first semester in college. Bob Barker, Price is Right. Flying Pig Marathon, the everyman's man's story. Meeting my son in a Romanian orphanage. Opening NASDAQ market for World AIDS Day. Hiking 92 miles in the Alps with Dale and his wife. Reinventing myself after my wife died. Jumping out of an airplane. Those were all inflection points in my life that I come and think about way more than creating a Russell 2000 company from scratch. They're just the cool things. They were inflection points in my life.
That's living, man. Please tell me you were on The Price is Right.
We were on the Price is Right. So our first product was a sunscreen product on a towelette delivery system. Single application, cover your face, neck, arms, and legs, throw it away. So my partner Bill Hinchy got it. It was $1,000, and we had squat. We had no capital whatsoever, and he got us on there. It was $1,000, and there were 5 products, and we didn't know it. We were watching the taped view of it, and this is like we're a year and a half into this thing, grinding, not paying ourselves. I'm 31 years old, look like a loser, and we're on the Price is Right with Bob Barker. And you had to pick 3 products under $5 at retail. So they describe all 5 products. So our products described SunSense Talent, single application, cover your face, neck, arms, and legs, Solar Care Technologies, Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. This woman picks the first 2. And then she goes, could you describe that sunscreen product another time? So we're high-fiving each other because we are now getting another 6 seconds, on Bob Barker. They pick our product and she wins $25,000. We are high-fiving each other. It's re-energizing the group at a moment when it's not about money, but our product is on the Price is Right. We get that moment that sort of just puts us back in the game and we're doing the right thing and we go back to grinding. It was just, you can't describe those moments, but, it was Bob Barker.
I think this would be a good time to take a quick break. If you're enjoying our show, we'd be incredibly grateful if you could take a moment to comment. And if you like what you're hearing, leave us a 5-star review. Your feedback not only makes our day, but helps other listeners discover our content. Your support through listening, sharing, following, and reviewing means the world to us and helps our podcast grow. Thanks so much for being part of the Redirect family. So let's now get back to our conversation. I'm fascinated by you pulling these together again, all these inflection points. I'm thinking myself, when I'm off this thing, I'm going to sit down and write down inflection points, because, they were the heart and soul of kind of who you were, who you are, how you were going to live life. Talk a little bit about being an entrepreneur in your current situation, just a little bit. Do you consider yourself retired? Where are you at?
The word retired is a tricky word. I'm not officially ADD, but I'm ADD. If I'm not busy doing something and have a project, I'm bored to tears. So I got to have something going on. One Putt Ventures, which is my family office, I invest in startup companies. I do my philanthropic activities through it. It's a real entity that I quietly run. So I have a business, philanthropy, service, give back to community. But I also tell myself, oh, it's a new year. I want to lose 10 pounds. I want to play 100 rounds of golf. And I want to, chase Dale, down the road on a bicycle. So there's always a set of goals that are out there. The mix changes once you get retired, but just stay busy.
Talk about that itch, the itch that you have, to continually do new things.
It's not as itchy as it used to be.
Okay.
It changes. I hate the term that I'm too old to do that, but in some cases kind of feel too old to do that. Or do I want to work that hard anymore instead of working smarter? But the thrill of doing new things and having projects that you can see, tangible goals out of, that sort of project management, regardless of what it is, whether it's on the personal front, a project on one of my boards, or just to help out a friend that's in a bind. I love projects.
You mentioned earlier about people in your life that have pushed you or that have sort of mentored you. Are you giving that back in your current role where you have all these experiences and such, where you're working with other people and being that one gentleman that you mentioned that said, go and do it. You got all this stuff ahead of you. Give it a shot. Are you being that guy?
Yes, absolutely. Always have been that guy. I used to go to work at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and it was always interesting back in the day. An entrepreneur, I wanted to meet Mike Gausling. Well, if you want to meet Mike, go to his office at 4:30 in the morning. He'll give you an appointment. And it was always interesting if an entrepreneur really was an entrepreneur, no, I want to have lunch with Mike. Well, Mike doesn't do lunches. He's kind of going for a bike ride or running the dog, or he's on a phone call. If you want to meet with Mike, you meet with him at 4:30 in the morning in his office and bring coffee. One out of two out of three entrepreneurs didn't want to come in at the 4:30 mark. You go, okay, screened out, done, next. Because that was the window I had open. If you want to take the window, you take it. If you don't, okay. In terms of entrepreneurs in my life now, I probably have 8 to 10 private investments of different sorts, and all of them are aspiring entrepreneurs that I'm investing in them as much just to get energized by them and be a mentor than I am, thinking I'm going to get a great capital return. So yeah, I still do that all the time. And I am a go-to person for whiteboarding with people. I love to whiteboard.
It is my favorite way to cultivate an idea.
Yeah, back in my days when we were running Orshire, and when I retired, somebody said to me, he goes, every time you traveled, we just go in your office and look on your whiteboard, because whatever stream of consciousness you had going on was all on the whiteboard at the time. So that's just how I thought.
Mike, in our show prep, we've had some conversation about this laminated sheet that you have for your core values. Talk to us about how this is almost like an operating system for you and how that works. How'd that come to be?
I'm a steam room guy, first of all, and that matters in this conversation because when we did our men's group years ago, Bible verses was important there. We had to open up every session with a Bible verse. And one thing that I'm awful at is memorization. Just absolutely petrified of memorization and Bible verses. So my office manager put them all on a laminated sheet, so that when I was in my steam room, which I do virtually every day, I could, sweat on my Bible verses and try to memorize them. Well, that laminated sheet took a couple forms. Number one, my core values, my key Bible verses, my mission statement for the current year were all on both sides of one laminated sheet. And I've kept that, carry that with me in my day calendar book, and I have for 20 years now.
And so talk to us for a second about what those core values are and why you chose them as a means by which to direct you.
Sure. They've changed over time. When we were running a company, they were all driven around the focus of the company, because that was our whole being was wrapped around the company. Now, I'm an independent guy now. I hide behind One Putt Ventures, which is my small family office, and I'm very proud that on One Putt Ventures I have my core values. At the top of my core values is a photo of a cross that Dale and I each had seen on a hiking trip on Mont Blanc. It was one of the most meaningful moments in my entire life. This moment when I saw this cross, and it's my screensaver on my phone, and it's on my core values on my website. My 3 core values are trust, transparency, and results right now.
And how do you bring those to bear in your personal life?
Well, I think it's the definitions of them. Trust, deliver total quality, solve problems quickly, and resolve issues equitably. Stay with that for a second. Startup companies happens all the time. And you have to trust people because you're putting your investors' money with them. There's no guarantees in life, but you got to at least believe that they're doing what they say they're going to do on the timing they're going to do it, and they're going to get it done. But things happen. If you take advantage of someone and have short-term objectives, it always comes back to haunt you. So resolving issues equitably has such a long-term perspective for those that you want to call your friends and you want legacies with. So trust is key to me in everything. If I lose trust, all bets are off. Transparency. Anybody that knows me, look, what you see is what you get. My three bullets, sub points of that is communicate candidly and analytically. I'm a finance guy. I turn everything into numbers. I can take any idea and I could put some analytics around it as a first generation to go raise capital against. That's a gift. Full disclosure, the good, bad, and the ugly. Once I left Procter and Gamble, a year later, I raised my first round of capital with private investors. And since 1987, I have had investors in everything that I have done. Still do. Still not out of it. Our venture fund had 128 angel investors that put $42 million of capital into our startup venture. I report quarterly, transparently, candidly, and not always good news. Full disclosure, the good, bad, and the ugly, and always open book. So transparency's just, that's what you get with Mike. And results. Results are kind of an interesting thing. For me is because I tend to view early stage is raising capital. How do you convince someone to bet on your idea? And then how do you end up turning that idea into a sustainable business idea? And if you do create a sustainable business idea that has brand equity, you'll create substantial wealth for your investors. So trust, transparency, and results are my three core values. I tie that together on my website by making this following statement. Besides my core values, I embrace my faith in Jesus Christ and seek to invest my time, talents, and treasures for the benefit of my family, friends, and local community.
And that's on your, is that on your laminated sheet?
That's on my website under core values.
That's a work in progress because I know that you go through that beginning of the year, check it out, see if it's still what it is. And it's been pretty consistent, right?
Yeah, the thing that I have worked on that back in the old days when I was working all the time, my mission statement looked like work, 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 and it always was a subset of one of those four. Today in my personal mission statement, not on the website, my four core principles are love, serve, work, and play. And I frame up sort of my annual budget, what am I going to get done under love, serve, work, and play.
So you made a comment about when you were working, go, 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 go. You seem to still be in fifth gear and still moving and working and doing all kinds of things, being a gentleman of 68 years of age. What's the future look like for Mike Gausling? Where, you've got all these experiences and all these skills and all this energy. Do you see yourself doing this until you go join the Lord?
Yes, is the one word answer. I've been blessed that I have financial options. I don't have to work. I enjoy investing in early stage ventures. It's just, it energizes me. But I don't micromanage. I don't sit in meetings. I get out of their way and we talk quarterly. I want to be outdoors. I'm pent up right now with the bad weather that's outside. Enjoying my friends and health are key right now. Having a commitment to, if not every day, diving into the Bible routinely is important. Feeling the Holy Spirit in me is exciting in whatever I do. And it's helpful now on the boards that I serve on. Valley Youth House, for example, I'm the treasurer. We're a $50 million organization. We serve 17,000 youth a year. And every child matters. And I have donated very substantially philanthropically to that organization. And I give my time to sort of help that organization through tough times when funding sources get tied up or change with political changes that happen out there. I happen to be it turns out, of a community colleges. It's $100 million foundation. I'm treasurer over there, and 5% of that foundation goes to scholarships with kids every year that otherwise couldn't go to any kind of college. Most are first generation. And just being part of a team and this is probably one of the things selfishly for me at this stage of life. It's one thing to contribute. It's another thing to be in the game with like-minded people that are gifted at their own businesses that help you still stay as in part of the game versus just starting to sort of go to the sidelines.
Yeah.
And I get inspired by my peer group to be able to just still continue to grow intellectually, emotionally, and spiritually by trying to do good, big things. And it is important at this stage of my life to start to be very philanthropic and leave my mark behind financially as well.
Mike, for those that might be approaching retirement or have recently found themselves outside of their career, what advice do you give to those guys and gals who, might not know that they have much left to give, or might not yet have found their purpose for their next 30? What advice do you give to someone approaching retirement or recently in it?
Go off grid and prayerfully talk to the big guy upstairs and start to think through it and keep your eyes open, because I think God works in clear and unambiguous ways most of the time. If you open your eyes to opportunities, I think it'll get in front of you if you ask and your spirit's open for it.
That's great advice.
I think I've been, as Mike would say, I get to play in the cheap seats and watch Mike do what he does, and I don't think anybody's stuck to that core of who you are as long as you have. I've seen a lot of people go lots of different directions, but you've been Mike ever since I've known Mike, and for those of you who don't know this, Mike and I are spirited competitors. We will find something to do, and it will be let's go after it, because in Mike's firehouse that he had developed when he was part of Orosure, and then on into the venture company that he started, there was a basketball court, and on that basketball court is where we would play horse and still compete. And that spirit and that life is something I look forward to having more of. As time, I was really looking forward to having the next 30. Mike Gausling is a big part of that, and us just being able to get back on the court, whatever court it is. Looks like it's going to be a golf course from here on out. But, you've been consistent throughout all the 50 years plus that I've known you. And that to me is a settling force.
Yeah, one of the things on redirect, and I think this is important for people with retirement, a lot of people don't retire on their own timing. They have reduction in workforce. You get us to a certain age, the company's going in a different direction, and all of a sudden, the best made plans are just blown up. I was in a great place at Procter & Gamble till my mentor said, Mike, you're crazy not to go to a startup. And then we didn't pay ourselves for the next 3 years, and, we grinded, and patience had to, take over. I didn't, when we were at the top of our game, and when I'm running a private company, I'm the largest individual investor. And, our chairman comes in and says, Mike, you're better off with a blank piece of paper. You don't like sitting in meetings, and we're getting too big. You got to go sit in meetings. These are complete redirects. And the biggest redirect in my life is I lost my wife 10 years ago. And, you sort of think you're going to go from top of your game to, this enjoyable retirement together. And then all of a sudden you just have these just get hit up against a brick wall. And whatever those changes are in life, that's the ones that are the hardest ones in my mind with redirect, because there's just an immediate, and I'm fully guilty of it, and almost a violent fix it, change it, what happened, how could this be to me? And those redirects are the ones that, boy, you better have Christ in your life to get through those, because they are really, really hard, and you have to be patient. You can't be in a hurry to kind of just redo it, because you got to be back into something right away. So I think that if there's advice on somebody that's retiring, is be patient. Because when you retire, you don't always go out on your own terms with the best made plan. Sometimes it just is thrown at you, and it's a complete redirect. And those are the hardest, but they're more common than not.
Mike, thanks for spending some time with us to get to know you a little bit more and what's the driving force behind you, as well as the aspect that you so purposely brought out, that there's a lot of things that confront us in redirections in different times of our life. And to have that core value, to have a personal mission on what your beliefs are and what you want to do within your own world, I think is so critical.
I agree, Curt. I'm going to brand it as an operating system, because I think, your personal methodology for orchestrating your life is something that most people don't have. They're enjoying life as it comes to them, which is its own great thing. But if you really want intentional quality outcomes, having some guide rails as to how you're going to operate as a person, and this identifies me, I think that's really unique. And I think I want to try and figure out how to incorporate that into my own life. So I think that's really cool. And we thank you so much for telling us your story, sharing a bit of you with us. And I think this is really going to help a lot of people.
And for me, certainly just our conversation about inflection points really kind of hit home. I really want to go back and take a look at those, and I will see God in all of those. Sometimes doesn't appear that he's there sometimes in some of those things, but when you look back and look hard enough, you find it. And I really appreciate you bringing that.
Dale, I think that comment about inflection points is important, because those inflection points, like we called redirections, help mold you. They add to your skill set. They add to your talents. They help you to overcome situations like you were talking about, Mike, that confront us all the time. And I think to take a good look of those inflection points, to sort of say, all right, where was I? What did I get out of this? And how am I applying it to the next thing? Could be a great start to finding things to do in this time when we've got more time available to us. Mm-hmm. So thanks again, Mike. Appreciate your time. And
no, I really appreciate you guys inviting me. I think it's a great thing that you're doing. I think it's helpful to all of us that are doing these transitions. I'm celebrating my 50th anniversary of graduating from high school this year. And you get these weird milestones, and you're kind of like, wow, I got to reflect back on life now. And ultimately, despite all the conflicts, God is good.
All the time.
Amen.
All the time.
And thanks for joining us on the Redirect Podcast.
Catch up on all the Redirect Podcast episodes on Spotify and Apple Podcast. To begin your redirect journey, head over to redirect-u.com. Want to connect with the Redirect team? Feel free to email us at info@redirect-u.com. Remember, there's purpose in your life, so find it and go do something about it.
Hey, I've got one more comment. The Redirect Podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. We engage in an open, honest conversations about personal growth, life transitions, and the lessons we've learned through our own experiences. While we speak as experts in our own lives, we are not licensed therapists, medical professionals, or certified coaches. The content shared on the Redirect podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the guidance of qualified professionals for any physical, mental, or emotional concerns that you may have. We're grateful to share this space with you and hope that our stories inspire reflection and connection. If you're in need of more support, we encourage you to connect with a trusted professional who can help.